The first time in history the court has allowed businesses to discriminate.
It was the last day of the worst Pride ever, and the Supreme Court decided to give one last slap in the face to the gay community.
The High Court, by a 6-3 margin, ruling that a Christian web designer can refuse to create a wedding website for same-sex couples because it would violate her right to free speech.
And I am 100% here for it.
He's unbothered.
What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. There used to be a saying when I was younger, and that saying goes, a hard head makes for a soft ass. And no pun intended, but the gay community really does have a soft ass. And the Supreme Court has had it with you and your gay ways. And so has the rest of the world right now. And that's why things are really turning, to tell you the truth. And it isn't even about being gay. What happened was Lorie Smith, an evangelical web designer, said that she wasn't going to make websites for gay weddings. And it's unclear whether or not she had ever been approached about a gay wedding, because this lawsuit, which was Lorie Smith versus the state of Colorado, which is where she's based, in Denver area, probably Aurora by the looks of her. If you've been to the Denver area, you know she looks like an Aurora girl. But anyway, she said the best way to not have this be a problem is to not ever let this be a problem. So let's go ahead and take this lawsuit while it's in hypotheticals so everybody knows what I'm not gonna be doing. And you know what? The LGBT and the left is really living in the world that they created, and they're not liking it once it doesn't work out in their favor. Because something similar happened with Melania Trump. There were several designers that openly said that they would not design a dress for Melania for the inauguration. And when that was happening, the left and the LGBT were like, yes, queen, you're not going to make Melania's dress. That's the way you do it. Let them know. Let them know. So if it was let them know back then, now you can't say, hey, this is against our rights. We need you to do this. No, you don't. You don't need anybody to do it. And to tell you the truth, I even think the idea of a website for a gay wedding is stupid in the first place. I don't know who's doing that, but somebody's doing it somewhere and somebody ain't. And that somebody is Lorie Smith not having it. But the other thing I would say is this also goes back to what I'm always talking about, which is the LGBT and wanting validation from the straight world and from the parts of the world that don't want them. Because the truth is, there are plenty of homely trans people that are in tech. All right, I need to grow up. I admit it, I need to grow up. The stats don't say they're homely trans people, but there are a lot of trans people that gravitate towards tech, web design, software development, all that stuff. I think they did a study about it. I'll see if I find the research on that. But if I don't, then you guys are just going to have to accept that I'm a liar. But there are plenty of homely trans people that would be happy to do your website for your gay wedding or whatever gay web design needs you might have. Just like when it came to the cakes. Let's not talk about gays and the cakes, baby. But seriously, like cakes, wedding cakes, those kinds of cakes, not the other kind of cakes. But when it comes to the cakes, I was always saying that I know plenty of lesbian bakers. And I wasn't joking. I did joke when I said that it was probably something about the yeast. That's neither here nor there, though. I am a comedian. My stuff is off color. You can see why you've never heard of me. But what I'm trying to get at is, why would you not just go to an LGBT baker or somebody that is an LGBT ally? Why would you not just go to an LGBT web designer? Because the best advice that I would give the LGBT community is to take note with what Jewish people have done. This isn't like on some Kanye type stuff. This is just truly what Jewish people have done. And one of the reasons that Jewish people have turned themselves into the community that they are is that in a lot of cases, they will go out of their way to use other Jewish businesses, Jewish dentists, Jewish lawyers, Jewish doctors, Jewish delis, just all together, supporting their own, which is something that I feel that any community that wants any type of say-so, whether it's politically or societally, should do. If you really want to be all about LGBT and you really want LGBT to have power as a voting bloc or as a community, then why go out of your way to try to sue people into welcoming you, which I put the welcoming in quotes because really, if you have to force them, you're not welcomed there. You may feel like that does something for you, but to me, I don't want to be anywhere that people don't want me. It's like Charlemagne the God always says, go where you're celebrated and not where you're tolerated. That's the way I live my life. So if somebody doesn't want me, and that's based on the fact that I'm gay or I'm Mexican, unless it's a service that I absolutely need, like if they're telling me that I can't get my water cut on because I'm Mexican or gay or both, then that's a problem. If they're telling me that I can't have electricity because I'm Mexican or gay or both, that's a problem. If they're telling me that I can't have a phone because I'm Mexican or gay and only going to use Grindr, that's a problem. But if it's a business where it's like, yeah, I can either help you thrive or I can be part of what watches you starve, I'm going to be part of what makes you starve but doesn't want you at the same time, because I really do feel that people should have a lot of freedom when it comes to that kind of stuff. Again, restaurant, I'm not asking you to make a special gay burger. I'm just asking you to make a burger. So if I needed some kind of special accommodations because I'm LGBT and you have to put your brain power into it and you have to use words that you wouldn't otherwise use, you know, like they love the Adam and Steve. So let's use that. Adam and Steve are going to form in a holy union, blah, blah, blah. You see how I don't have the skills that Laurie Smith does. But if you're going to ask Laurie Smith to use all these words to describe this situation that is really having her like, Adam and Steve, what? I mean, like, poor Lori. She'd be going through it, trying to write up your little, you know, and like I said, when it was happening with Melania, everybody was fine with it. So everybody wants things to work based on their morals, and that's unfortunately just not the way that the laws work.
Free speech is for everyone.
Nobody is worried about your particular morals, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if it was okay when nobody wanted to make Melania's dress, then when a person like Lori says, I don't want to design your gay website, then you have to accept that too.
Colorado's public accommodations law, which requires businesses that serve the general public to serve all equally, does not apply in cases where the product or service being offered expresses a message.
I'm sorry, gay people, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You like how I did that? But it's 100% true. And Lori, I'm gonna be honest, you were on some boss bitch shit, if you ask me. I want to be like, oh, Lori has to. Lori doesn't have to do anything. Here's the deal. Lori was doing it on the grounds of, if I'm gonna do this website, I basically have to use my own creativity to make this happen. And I'm basically being forced to do something that I don't want to do.
And the court affirmed today that the government cannot force anyone to say something it doesn't believe.
And I can see her point, because if you think about it just in terms of, let's take out the sexual orientation part of it. I know some of you are going to be like, it's still a violation. You're not my audience anyway. So complain down in the comments. Oh, by the way, everybody like, comment, and subscribe. You know how it goes. If you don't know what to comment, but you want to help me on the algorithm, please just leave a knife, because you know the queens are going to come for my neck on this one, and
not on tonight.
And I know
that makes no sense, girl.
But still,
not on tonight
is what I'm saying. So please do leave your comments and make sure you subscribe. We're almost to 20,000 followers now. We're less than 2,000 away from 20,000 followers. That's another goal. So if you guys can, please do subscribe. So anyway, what I was trying to get at is Lori was not having it. And I do not blame Lori, because if you take sexual orientation out of it and you just make it a thing of where it's a particular palette, which if you're going to have a gay wedding, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to want you to use a lot of rainbow theme. And if you look at my thumbnails, I will try to incorporate, since it's Pride Month, the pride flag. And aesthetically, I don't really like the way it works with a lot of things. So I can see somebody just being unwilling to do certain things based on that alone. Like if you're going to want a particular palette or there's a certain thing you're looking for, and I know it's because of Lori's religion that she's not keen on doing these websites. And I really don't blame her for that, because if I don't want to do something as a comedian, if I don't want to take a gig because it's for a group that I don't stand behind the message of, and they're like, we don't want you to just do your act. We want you to do something that's custom for us, which is what websites are. They're going to want her to customize this website for the gay wedding. And it's like, well, no, I don't want to use my brain power and I don't want to use my talent to put your message out there. That's the way I feel as a comedian. And that's not even taking gay into account. I had that happen to me not too long ago. And yeah, it's not the same, obviously, but it, to me, does illustrate basically the same point. I was asked to do a show that, to be honest, didn't pay enough, but that's beside the point. I was asked to do this particular gig and they had wanted me to do a clean set for them. And I don't particularly like working in clean. I can do it and I have done it, and that's how I got on TV the couple of times that I did it, was I had to be clean. But at this point in my career, I don't want to be clean. I don't want to use my brain power to think about clean material. I don't even think of things in terms of clean or dirty anymore. I just think of them as what I feel like saying and what I feel like doing jokes about, what I feel like making bits about, what I feel like writing about, what's true to my heart at the moment. So with that being the way that I look at things, I did not at all want to do this gig. And so I told the guy that books the gig, yeah, I wouldn't be the guy for you. I'm not interested. Same thing to me, in that if you don't want to do it, you just don't want to do it. And I know that people are like, you know, it's like black people at lunch counters. And no, it's really not. To begin with, you don't have to walk in to a web design place. I have had several people do, which I need somebody to do web design for me now. Maybe I'll hit Lori up. But I do need a website right now. And I have never been in any kind of physical contact with the web designer. It's always been 100% done online. My first website ever, which was forever ago, early 2000s, even then, he was all the way in New York and I was in LA, and everything was done online. So it's not really something that you have to go in for, and you can find that all over the world. So why would you want Lori, who's in Denver, Colorado, and a very specific person, to do your website anyway? At that point, you really are just trying to force somebody to do something. And I understand why Lori had her hypothetical lawsuit. It was just because, like I said, the best way for something to not be a thing is to not ever let it be a thing. And so she was just saying, let me handle this before somebody comes to me with this and then tries to sue me over it. Let me make sure that legally I'm covered. And that's why I said that she's on some boss bitch shit to me. Just like there was a guy with the cake. The guy that designed the wedding cakes, he was also Denver area. Denver, to be so open-minded, because I love Denver, but I would be willing to bet that Denver is just tired of the wokeism or the wokeness, however you want to put it. But Denver is a very woke place. So that's why it's semi-surprising to me that this would happen. But then you go to Colorado Springs, which is just not too far away from Denver. It's a place I love performing, but there's a bunch of mega churches and it's very conservative there. So it could kind of be some of that. But my point is, I think a lot of people just are tired of the wokeness. And so they're like, yeah, I want to make sure that I don't ever have to bow down to these people. And I don't blame them, because with the cake guy, it became a really big deal. And it took him forever to deal with that. You know, with Lori, it's been 6 years that she's been dealing with this. Supreme Court just finally decided, you're right. This would be compelled speech. This would be us forcing you to do something. And I believe it was Justice Gorsuch that even compared it to if a black Santa had to take a picture with a baby that was wearing a KKK outfit.
Upholding the Colorado law in this case, Gorsuch added, would mean that the government could force an unwilling Muslim movie director to make a film with a Zionist message, or compel an atheist muralist to accept a commission celebrating evangelical zeal.
So when you put it like that, and then I tell you guys as well, the community has overplayed its hand. And now the community is really reaping what it has sown. And I don't say that in a purely I told you so way, but there is a fair amount of I told you so going on here. Because what you used to be able to count on in these situations, because people will blame the fact that currently in the Supreme Court, 6 of the justices are conservative and 3 of them are liberal. But when it comes down to it, a lot of this would be dependent on public outcry. So if there were a loud enough group that were like, this is wrong and gay people shouldn't have to deal with this, then they would have considered it in a different way, I guarantee you. But the fact is, right now, the conservative justices know the LGBT isn't exactly what you could call in favor with the general public. So the general public is just going to kind of stand back. It's kind of like that situation when you have a friend that is kind of mouthy, or just an acquaintance maybe that's kind of mouthy, and then one day somebody gets annoyed with them to a point that you see that that person is about to get into physical negotiations with the mouthy person that is your acquaintance. So you and your friends, because you know that they're mouthy and they might have something like that coming, rather than you jumping in or you stopping the physical negotiations from happening, you instead just stand back and let things happen the way that they happen. That's what is happening right now with the public and the LGBT community, and what's happening with the Supreme Court and a lot of these supposed injustices that you're going to be seeing coming down the pike in the upcoming months, possibly even years, if the LGBT community doesn't get it together. Because I'm going to tell you, LGBT people, I still think that we, as the old school LGBT, can right the ship. We've just got to disavow a lot of the Q, not even a lot of the Q, all of the Q. The T now just stands for transsexual. No more transgender. Sorry, it got too carried away. You got to be your own thing. Let them be the 2S LGBTQ community.
2S LGBTQ PIA+ community.
Let them have that. So the gays, the lesbians, everybody that wants to go with the 2S LGBT, you identify as 2S LGBT. We, the old school LGBT, are just going to be LGBT. We're going to drop the Q and let you guys have your fights the way you want to have them, and we will work towards something a little more normal. We're never going to be 100% normal. We never wanted to be 100% normal. But we're going to be as close to normal as we need to be for everyday people to be able to relate to us and say, yes, you can have your rights. You can do whatever you want, my princess, except grow up to be a woman. All right, I'm stupid. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.